Welcome to Make Things Happen with Diana Pagano. I came from struggle, living life on survival mode, and later found myself living in that same vicious cycle. Life is meant to be so much more than settling. My life changed when I learned the power of your mindset and how it applies to every part of your life. I'm a business leader, speaker, and author. I have made it my life's mission to share all the tools and techniques that changed my life because I know they will for you too. All your hopes and dreams really lie in the how. How are you making things happen? Are you ready to stop dreaming for what could be and turn those dreams into reality? I thought so. Well, get ready to live life on your terms. Hello, and welcome back to Make Things Happen with Diana Pagano. On today's episode of Goal Setting with a Vision is one of my absolute favorite topics. A lot of topics that I love in my podcast. I do feel that there's going to be my top 10 at some point that I love to share with you. This to me is very foundational. It's everything that you're already doing is visualization. So the aspects of visualizing your outcome when you're doing your goals, when you're creating the next thing in your life is so crucial. This is why this episode is so dear to my heart. It's something that I have practiced for many, many years, very intentionally. And when you provide visualization to your goals on an intentional level, that's where you create magic. It's truly magic. And it's not something that just lives in the witchcraft world or voodoo, or I'm going to be the psychic. I'm just going to imagine something pop up and it's going to pop up, right? It's neuroscience. It's neuroscience, the science that actually backs up everything that I'm going to talk about today. So I'm so excited about this episode and we're going to get into it. What is goal setting with a vision? When you're looking to create a goal for yourself, whether it's a personal goal or it's a business goal, you got to know where you're headed. So you can write down the best strategy. I'm going to do, if you want to lose weight, I'm going to do X amount of exercise. I'm going to eat this kind of food, but you got to know and actually go to the end result. Always have a vision of what would that look like, you achieving that thing. First off, what is it that you want to do? If you have a goal that you've had and maybe you didn't achieve your goals, I'd like you to reflect and say, what are the things that were missing? I didn't feel motivated, or I started off on a good path and then times got tough and then I just threw in the towel because I didn't feel that this was right for me. We did talk a lot about your beliefs, right? You got to understand and reflect on what are the things in your lives, what goals did you potentially have or aspire to have, and work on your goals that maybe you just let sit on the table. And there's a time that sometimes you have to put on your back burner and say, not now, but then there's other times you need to get that sucker in the front burner and light it up on fire. So this is really for those of you that are ready to go and you want to start implementing a plan for yourself. Anything in life requires a plan. If you go on a trip around the world, whatever you're doing, there's a plan. You're like, what? Got to look at my calendar, got to see what date I'm going to leave, got to know which location I'm going to stay at, right? What hotel am I going to stay? What vehicle might I rent? There's a plan. There's a plan that you're doing. You're always planning out what's your next thing. What am I going to eat for dinner? What am I going to have for lunch? And then you wonder, oh my gosh, I want to make this dinner. And then you get to the kitchen and you're missing like the parsley. Because you didn't plan. How many times have you said, gosh darn it, I just said I was going to do this. I went off the top of my head that I had everything. And then you're in the kitchen making this amazing meal. And then you have one ingredient that you don't have. Same thing with goal setting, you guys. When you're planning your agenda for your business, whatever it is, whatever goal it is that you're looking to achieve, whatever project is in front of you or sales revenue you want to increase, you got to start with where are you now? Where are you now and where are you headed? What does that look like, you being successful after you achieved it? And I'm telling you that this is so important when you're goal setting, because when you're working on your business and you say, I'm going to set out to achieve I'm going to go from $5,000 a month to $10,000 a month. And then there's the how, there's the execution strategy. When you're doing a goal, you got to know first and foremost that you got to shoot. If you're not shooting for the moon, then you're playing too small, in my opinion. If you want more, you got to think more. You want more in your life, whatever that more is for you, you got to think bigger, right? Once you've identified what are the things holding me back from really creating a goal for myself, creating a plan. You want to move out from your parents' house because you've been there for however long and you want to be independent, or you want to grow your business to that next level. You got to have a plan that you're going to consistently work on and consistently water your plant. Right? It's like that farmer. He's planting his seeds, is doing the thing that he needs to do. Everything has to be thought out about every step of the way and how you're setting yourself up for success, really. And I've seen so many people create a goal for themselves. And then I ask them, well, by the end of the year, where are you? Let's pretend that you've already at the finish line. And I don't think that there's ever a finish line, right? It just keeps on progressing. You keep growing and evolving. But you know what I mean? By the end of the year, that's your target. What happened now that you've achieved this goal? When you get the clarity that your goal really requires you to have, you need to have clarity. What does this really look like for myself? What is it that I'm reaching for? If you can't tell yourself, you can't tell me, you can't tell anybody what your goal looks like after it's been achieved, there's your first place you want to start. I don't know what I want. Well, then let's reflect, right? You got to reflect and say, what is it that would absolutely light your heart on fire if you achieved X, Y, Z? Whatever that is. You might say, man, this mountain is too big to climb. This goal is too unachievable. There's no way I'm going to achieve it. But I'm going to do this thing because I'm going to do the set of goal. I've heard that you got to set goals for yourself. That's not going to happen for you because you got to know that you're going to do whatever it takes to achieve that goal. Whether you land somewhere else or you didn't quite hit it, don't worry about what are the chances of me hitting it. Worry about how committed are you to do something that absolutely would be fantastic for you, that isn't necessarily easy peasy and you can achieve quickly. People think, oh, I'm going to do the easy thing. Fine, start with the easy thing. But don't allow yourself to push away the goals that really light your heart on fire over fear of not achieving that, right? Sometimes false evidence appearing to be real is really what fear is. If you think about it, right? Fear is false evidence appearing to be real, but they're not real. And it goes back to our topic today, visualization, setting your goal with a vision. Visualization has made such an impact in your life, whether you realize it or not. You've been doing this since the beginning of time, us humans, since the beginning of time of humans. God has given you the greatest gift that money cannot buy, and that is the power of your brain and how to control on purpose the things that you're going to focus on, the things that you're going to think about. I'm not saying that life isn't going to happen. You're not going to get upset about something, and all of a sudden you're having these negative thoughts or banter with yourself about, man, every time I do this, it never fails. Yet another thing is going wrong. Always something. This morning I was in the elevator with another gentleman, and he said, there's always something. And I'm thinking to myself, does it have to be always? Is it always something? Right? Just by the words that you're saying to yourself. So what are the things that you've convinced yourself out of? And I just don't feel motivated. So therefore, I'm just not excited enough to go after that thing. And I'm going to stay where I am. That's fine. If that makes you feel happy, it's not about money. It's about your inner peace, your inner happiness that comes from, I believe humans need to progress. You need to progress. It's not about having billions of dollars for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're making $30,000 a year, but you're growing on some level, whether it's spiritually, whether, you're going to be happy. You're going to be fulfilled. If you're not happy living in a 2-bedroom apartment with a family of 6, like I was when I was a child with my parents, then when is the time that you're going to say no more? This is the time to make a change. You don't have to wait until you get that money or that raise at your job. You don't have to wait until you file your tax returns because you're going to get $3,000. And then when you get $3,000, you'll be able to invest in, I don't know, something. I don't care if it's like you go somewhere to invest in some materials or something that you're going to now sew something and sell it on Amazon. You don't have to wait until you have money. You don't have to wait until you graduate college. You don't have to wait until anything. It lies right now. It lies on you. When you start something, you're going to get momentum. You're going to start, the wheels are going to start turning. When the wheels start to turn, things around you will start to mimic the direction that you're setting for yourself. And when you're starting with a goal with a vision, you can't just have a goal with no vision. Even engineers, you guys, engineers have to visualize the massive bridges that they've ever built before they build them. They have to imagine in their minds. Visualizing is really a bunch of photos, a bunch of images in their brain working to imagine what's possible. When you're thinking about something, when you're actually practicing the visualization aspects of your goal settings or anything in life, when you're visualizing it, you're utilizing the left side of your brain. When you are thinking words is more reality. That's the right side of your brain. So when you're practicing visualization and you're tapping into that potential side of your brain that you need to live more on, because when you do, that's when you're starting to be intentional. That's when you're saying, hey, I'm on autopilot on the right brain. It's everything that is absolutely reality. You can't go further than this. There's a stop sign that says stop. You can't go past it or you'll get a ticket. You can't achieve that thing in 6 months because it's never been done before. No one in your family ever did that level of success, so you can't either. I've never had that level of success. You're focused on the right side of your brain, and that's only going to give you things that are reality right now. Doesn't mean you have to be delusional and say, I'm gonna fly to New York like Superman. Obviously, no. But if another freaking human on this planet that you live on has achieved that thing, you can too. And that's the part of your left side of your brain. That's the brain that has all the potential waiting for you to tap into that. Because when you tap into that regularly, right? Not once a month, you did that visualization thing Diana told us about. No, it's consistency. You can't do it every day. Start with once every other day. Heck, do it once a week. Start somewhere, right? And when you're tapping into that left side of your brain, I'm telling you right now, magic will happen. Neuroscience says so. Neuroscience actually has proven that when you visualize, it changes how you feel. It has improved your health, people's health. It has improved performance big time. I have boys that are in hockey. I've done a lot of visualization with them. I've actually done a lot of guided meditation with them. So I've been impregnating things in their brain that they are to imagine. And they're so little. So when they're little, they have the best imagination that most humans don't have it, but you do have. But as a kid, your imagination is even bigger because you haven't seen how ugly the world can be at times, right? As you and I probably know. And so when they're falling asleep, I'm telling them things that I want them, because when you hear things, you start to imagine things. You start to build pictures in your mind. I mentioned this before and I'll say it again. If you have a fear, it's only because you know what that fear looks like. For example, I don't like bats. I don't like bats. I don't need bats. I don't need to get over my fear of bats. I just will never need a bat to get over my fear. But I don't like bats. And so if I start thinking about a bat and I feel like it's even right now, I just felt a little like uncomfortable because I had a freaking bat in my house at midnight one time in my bedroom. True story. My son was 5 months old. We're in our bedroom and I had somebody come out to paint the fireplace. So they had to open up the fireplace. I forgot what the heck you call the gadget there. So I didn't realize it wasn't closed. I didn't know. I'm not from New England. I don't know. I'm from San Diego. I don't have bats anywhere where I grew up. So anyways, a bat came in at freaking midnight and woke us up because it was making some noise. I had no idea what it was. All I know is my husband put the sheets over his head and I went under with him. Like, what was that? He's like, I don't know. He's like, what the frick was that? And then he goes like that. He goes, holy sh. And I'm like, what was it? He goes, it's a freaking bat. And I'm like, what? He literally grabs my son like a football, puts the sheet over his head, crawls off the bed to the door, leaves me to help to freaking, save myself. And I was like, are you kidding? Okay, now I know where we stand. You're going to save our child and forget about mom. So I laugh about it now because in reality, it's not the bat that scares me. It's the thought that I know what it looks like. Even just now thinking about the bat in my room, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't ever like to tell the story very often because I'm like, I don't be careful what you think about too, because you bring more energy to it. And I'm a little bit weird like that. It's not even me being weird. It's just energy. It's like, what are you focusing on? Have you ever had a thought or a story, just like what I said, and then all of a sudden that day or maybe the next day, oh my gosh, I was just telling my husband about this thing. I was just telling my friend about this thing. And all of a sudden it showed up. That is the power of attraction based on the energy and the thoughts and the things that you're visualizing in your brain. There is no accident. Yes, there's things that might be coincidental, but life is so incredibly beautiful and magical in so many ways. And yet we have so many people around us. We ourselves have suffered from pain, from the things in our lives that we feel that we have no control over. And sometimes play pity parties for ourselves. Sometimes even people have played the victim. Why me? Why me? And it's like, you know what? Life is going to happen to anybody, but you can control how you focus on the things that you are going to propel you. You do have a choice. I'm not saying that you getting stranded on the highway on the way to that important meeting isn't a real thing and you're upset and you're frustrated, but what do you have to work with? And I always say this to my children. I say this to even people I've coached. You always have 2 choices. I don't give them 5. I don't say 10. We all know we can have a million choices, but it's really 2 choices. To stay with that frustration that I didn't get that goal I set for myself, didn't happen for me last year, didn't happen for me last quarter, didn't happen for me last week. Or you can look at it from a different perspective by shifting your mindset and going to the side of your brain that actually is going to help you. It's ready. All it needs you to do is say, hey, left brain, help me out here. Let me tap into that potential. And when you start to tap into that by simply having a shift and saying, okay, darn it, I have a flat tire. I'm late to that very important meeting. But you know what? Everything that is happening in my life, listen to this, and it's hard for people to swallow. Everything that's happening in my life is happening for my greater good, for your greater good, the good and the freaking ugly, as painful as it is. I mean, I've been at tears on my knees saying, God, what are you teaching me right now? What are you trying to teach me that I'm not picking up, right? It's real. I'm getting emotional about it because it's real. When the pain happens, you often don't want to go to the left brain because you're so focused on the reality that your right brain is producing you. It's giving you the reality that this is what your circumstance is, and you're in the cloud and you're in the storm and it feels like you can't come out, right? But when you learn the power that you all have, that God has given you, the power to say, you know what, it hurts and I might be in tears and I might be feeling the pain, but I'm going to go tap into my left brain. I'm going to say and ask for what I want. I need clarity. I need to learn this lesson. You seek, you shall find. That's what it says in any Bible, any religion that you are. Not making this a religion thing, but you when you seek, you shall find. And when you have faith followed by that I'm going to seek answers and I'm going to get through this hard time. I'm going to get through my goals no matter what. When you just are determined in the beginning of your journey, before you start your goal setting, and once you do your goal especially, and that you're just committed to make this happen, these are the tools that I'm so excited to bring on this Make Things Happen podcast for you. Because I've been through the mud. I've been through the trials and tribulations. I've been through the stuff that didn't seem that could ever get better for me, until I learned the power that God has given each and every one of us. And it's not just, Diana, what is this positive thinking stuff? You're just going to visualize a picture of yourself, and it's just going to happen. We're going to get into absolutely the details and unlayer that sucker for you so that it's so practical and tangible for you to really tap into your greatest potential that God has given you. That's my story. And when I mentioned the bat, right now when I get chills of it, it's because I have images in my brain. And you all have images in your brain. You all have a memory bank that is going to be tapped into when you start talking, when you start thinking about stuff that has happened. And so it's all about just catching yourself. Am I going to remember why this goal I had for myself didn't happen for me? All the people that told me no, the banks, the money, the lack of money that I didn't have, right? That's your memory bank. You're going back to that memory bank and you're remembering. And when you remember the things that aren't the most happiest of times or rejection that you've had, when you think about that, you guys, it's going to change how you feel. Maybe even your breathing changes. Maybe even some anxiety and you feel tense. Have you ever felt that way when you start thinking about things that stress you out? I've heard somebody say I get heartburn when they get stressed, because it changes how you feel, you guys, when you start thinking about things that don't empower you, that don't move you forward. Now, you might say, Diana, what am I not supposed to think at all about the reality of my finances? I'm not saying that you're going to think about it. What I'm saying is that shouldn't hold you back, right? So as I said before, you always have 2 choices. One is to look at your circumstances from your right brain and look at the reality that you don't have money, you don't have the resources, you don't have the education, you don't have the family that you want to have, whatever it is that's lacking. Or you can look at from a different perspective, right? The second choice is that I'm going to do this anyways. I'm going to work towards my goal as if I'm having the thing that I'm lacking. Does that make sense? And the only way for you to think about the thing that you want to do without thinking about the thing that you're lacking, that's a tongue twister, right? is to visualize. This is your best friend. This is your tool to compensate the weaknesses that we all bring to the freaking table. The insecurities, the vulnerabilities that we bring. Tap into that, and that's going to absolutely impact the reality that shows up for yourself. The power of visualization is when you tap into the left side of your brain. It's called potential. Think about this, Diana, whatever it is that you're thinking. Think about something that you just know is so hard to break through, whatever it is. Whatever it is, whether it's a health issue, it's a business, whatever it is. And I'm not saying people that have been really sick, and I understand that. My father had cancer 5 times. Rest in peace, Dad. He did not die from cancer. He just lived a very unhealthy life with cigarettes and drinking, but cancer didn't take my dad's life. And he had it 5 times. I said, Dad, you're not a cat, okay? You need to, fix your health or what have you. And it's painful. I know people have lost loved ones with for cancer and things like that. And I'm not saying that is something that you're just going to visualize your way to healthiness. But it has been proven, neuroscience says that when you visualize a healthier life, when you visualize people on chemotherapy and all the symptoms that they've had, they visualize feeling better. They visualize in detail. Things change. And you might say, well, that didn't change for me. That didn't change for my family. All I'm saying is give it a try. Give it a try, because there's so many elements to visualization. And we're going to get into that in today's episode. And it's about how it changes how you feel, as I mentioned before. So imagine if you're thinking about the things that make you sad or frustrated or mad, it changes how you feel, as I said. And I say this throughout darn near every podcast, because it's so important and it transcends to everything in your life, personally and professionally. How you make things happen matters in every which part of your life. And so when you feel scared, are you going to go for that thing? No, likely not. When you feel mad, when you feel discouraged, right? And think about it. How do you feel a certain way? And even about fear, you guys, when you're scared, some things are meant to be scary. Some things in your life are meant to make you uncomfortable. You're going to feel scared. You're going to feel a little bit of fear. Then you're not going to do it, right? I think when you know up front that, hey, I might feel uncomfortable. This might scare me a little bit. And if your goals, you've heard this saying, if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough, right? But they should excite you even more. So when I would challenge you and say, what are the things you're thinking about? So if somebody tells me, and I've had people in the audience often, and I talk to me after a speaking engagement, and I feel so anxiety, this and that, and I said, okay, anxiety is real. I've had it myself. What are you thinking about? Oh, and it was actually kids, high school kids that I was talking to at one time, and in many different crowds. But this one story was a high schooler, and she was afraid about what decision she was going to make, and she was just thinking about all the choices that she had. I'm like, that's amazing. How many people in your shoes, I told her, have the choices that you have? And she goes, I didn't think about it that way. And that changed just a tiny, I don't care if it's a tiny shift in your perspective, take it. And so she just said, I've been dealing with anxiety and this and that. And so she didn't correlate the two. And I said, what are you thinking about? And so that's why it's so important when you're setting your goals to really think about what are the things that you're thinking about in the process of creating those goals, right? If it's not empowering you, if it's not making you feel excited or motivated to even put goals on paper, then you're not thinking right. And it's okay to put it to bed and say, you know what, I'm not gonna do this goal thing until I get my mind right. You can change your mindset. You can change your mood in a matter of, as long as it took me to snap my fingers. You can do that. You can do that. I've done it. So I know, and I've done it with other people. You can absolutely change it. But if it takes you an hour, if it takes you a whole day, that's fine too, right? You got to understand that your brain, your mind is literally governing everything that's happening in your life. As I mentioned before, the good and the ugly. So when you're looking to set a goal for yourself, I want you to really just reflect on a couple of things. The first thing I would say is, why does this goal matter to you? Why? What is this goal gonna do to you or for you, right? Having this thing that the target that you're after, what is it now going to be able to allow you to do? Who might you help around you? What is that really going to create for yourself? It's called purpose, if you know where I'm getting at. It's called purpose. What's the purpose behind this goal? And one thing for me, for most people that know me very well, everything I do is very purpose-driven. And it maybe to a fault, you guys, I'll be honest, maybe to a fault. If I'm sitting there doing one thing, there has to be a purpose. I don't just sit around and just like, even when I'm sitting around doing nothing and I'm just looking outside, I'm I'm purposeful about what I'm doing. And that's me unplugging. I'm breathing. I'm getting my mind right. Maybe I'm starting to feel a little anxious about something. So I'm starting to go into my left brain and say, Diana, what else could this be? What else could you tap into? What else is possible? And just by that question, when you think about what else is possible, so this isn't going to work, what else could work? You start to create answers to the things that you seek, right? And so when you're doing your goals, right, you're going to go over what is it that you're looking to achieve. You don't have to do a big thing off the bat. So for us, right, and even our business, I look at the annual and I say, what are we looking to achieve for the year? And I go straight to December 30th. Okay, it's December 30th. We're having a celebration maybe for New Year's, and we're looking back at the crazy year and realize that I said the crazy year, crazy doesn't have to be bad. Even good, crazy stuff is good, right? But I said the crazy year, so I'm already implying that it was a crazy year because life isn't always kumbaya. I don't imagine like birds chirping on the trees outside of a freaking lake. But I also don't imagine turmoil either. I imagine like craziness, but a good crazy. Even when I have to go do my nails or I have to go get a massage, I'm like, man, it's crazy. I got to be at that thing at 12, but it's me taking care of me. Even that takes work, right? But that doesn't have to be work in a bad way. Investing time on you so that you can be a better version of yourself, your family, your people that you care about in your life, your business, your employees, your significant other, relies on you being a better version of yourself. I can't be the mom that I know I can be for my kids if I'm not taking care of mommy. And I always tell them that. I say, you guys, mommy needs time for her. I'm working on my book. I had to finish some chapters. I tell them, mommy is working on chapter 10. And in order for mommy to finish chapter 10, I need to not put you to bed tonight and daddy's turn, right? And so you kind of explain the things to the people around you, whether it's kids, friends, neighbors, mom, dad, in-laws, whoever. And you're not always going to please everybody. And that's okay too, but you have to please yourself. You're with you for the rest of your life. You're going to be 95 one day. I don't care if it's 105. I know I plan to live past 100. People think I'm weird, because I think about that and people, let me talk about that really quick because this is a really good point of this topic. It just happened recently. For some weird reason, the last 4 weeks, I've talked to like 2 different people and they said, oh gosh, not me. 97 is too old. And I said, how come? I don't want to be on a wheelchair. I don't want to be with a bag of urine. No kidding. These are grown adults that are healthy. As from my perspective, they look healthy that are saying this. And I'm like, you've already determined that if you made it to 95, that's what that's going to look like. You've already have a whole image for yourself. No wonder you don't want to live until you're 95 or more. You see the difference, you guys. I focus on that 104-year-old that I saw last year fly out of a freaking plane. Not like by accident, like on purpose with a parachute, right? I'm like, wow, I said that to my mom. I sent her the video. I'm like, Mom, you're 80. And this is what you're going to be able to do if you want to. I'm not saying she has to do that. Obviously, I'm exaggerating, but I don't think I want to ever go out of a plane. But I know I want to be healthy. I know I want to remember my grandkids. I'm already saying that it's going to be my great grandkids. So I'm a little ambitious. So what? Right? I was young. I was 18 when I had my oldest son. So I think that's possible, right? I was a kid with him, grew up with him. So that's my point. Catch yourself when you say, I don't want to do this because you've already set yourself up that it means a certain thing. And heck, you know what? If you know it means a certain thing and it's a beautiful thing, it's a beautiful circumstance, who am I to tell you to change your thinking? But if it's not, think about it. What does you being in your 90s look like? It doesn't have to be unhealthy because your uncle and your grandparents weren't healthy, right? You could break that cycle. It's been proven, you guys, everything is backed by research. Did you know that there was research, and this is an old school story, I'm sure maybe some of you might have heard this before, but they took a group, I don't know how many they were. For all intents and purposes, I'll say there's 10 of them. They took a group of kids and they were wanting to improve their game on basketball on free throws. So they took the 10 group of kids and they put them to work and just physically practice throwing free throws. They took another set of kids, the same amount, and put them in a room, and they were only to do visualization. They were only to see visualization of them doing the thing on the basketball court, doing the free throws successfully, right? Not just visualizing, because then if you allow negative thoughts to come in, well, then you're going to not have a good outcome. And the kids that actually practiced physically increased and improved by 23%, this study showed. And the kids that only visualized the success that they were actually doing the thing increased by 24%. Heck, I don't care if it was 15%, if it was less than the kids doing the physical activity. It proves, can you imagine if you visualize, when you visualize, coupled with the time and dedication that you're going to put towards your goals? Wow, you will be unstoppable. And yes, you'll have your moments of defeat at times, maybe, right? There's going to be maybe some rejections. You might have to fall down and you dust yourself off and you rise up again, as I've mentioned in other podcast episodes. But you are going to increase your chances for success when you visualize what that looks like. And it's not just setting your goals and saying, okay, I'm going to reach X amount of financially in the next 90 days or in the next 6 months, and then set it and forget it, right? No. Just like drinking water, I talk about this a lot. Drinking water nourishes your body. You don't drink a whole gallon on Monday and say, I'm good for 2 days. You need that daily thing. Zig Ziglar said it best. You know, it's just like motivation. It's just like showering. You know, you don't just shower once and say, that's it, I'm good for the week. Right? It's the same thing with your mind. It's what you're doing. When you're looking at your goals, have a system that works. On Mondays, I'm going to tell you what I do. On Mondays, I review what's happening for the week with my team. And then on Fridays, we reflect back on what did we accomplish, what didn't we accomplish, why, and you reflect on all that. But then there's a lot of visualization. What does that look like? What does success with this project look like? And that you check in with yourself. So I can't do it every day. That's fine. You don't have to do it every day. But you got to be consistent with it. You could be driving your kids to school, visualizing how the day is going to end, how beautiful it's going to be, how your goals are starting to get flight, how your goals are now coupled with other resources that you didn't have yesterday. That today is a new day that I could have the outcome that I didn't have yesterday, right? These are the things, and the only way that you get that is by making sure that every goal you set for yourself is coupled with a vision. So if it's just one goal for the next 90 days, I'm really big with bite size. So I have an annual goal. I break it out by quarter and then by month with my team, you know, especially in the sales department. Like, we got to make sure we're bringing in the sales to support why we're even here. And then you do bite size and you think about, okay, what's my plan for the year? What's my plan for the quarter? Am I on target? And you got to focus on the day to day. We're all making things happen in our lives at some level, on some level. It's how are you making things happen? And it starts with you. It starts with you. It starts with your brain. It starts with you getting your mind right, starting your day and saying, I'm fired up because I already know that when I put in my time coupled with my left brain, I tap into that potential and I sit there and I focus on what it is that I'm looking to achieve. It might seem very crazy to some people and it takes discipline. What's crazy is that it takes more effort to think negatively than it does to think positively. It actually requires more effort out of you to do that. And it's easy to just be like, oh, this is hard, I'm just going to throw in the towel. But it's not that hard actually to think positively, to look at a situation with a different perspective. So when you're setting your goals, I want you to make sure that you have that one thing, is that you are understanding, why are you going after this goal? What's the significance of this? And that's called purpose. Right? The second thing is, what are you targeting in this goal? It's got to be a when. So there's a methodology that we've done in our business, and it's called the X to Y by when, right? And it's actually been it's been founded on 40X, and it's the 4 disciplines of execution. We're going to get into that on part 2 of our episode of goal setting with a vision. But I really want you to just start with, like, what is it that you're going to do? What do you want to accomplish? As if you don't have to worry about the lack that you have that might exist. I don't want you to think about that. I don't want you to think about the money or all this other stuff. You might say, well, how can I open up that store? Well, granted, right? Like, what would it look like you opening up that store? What are the resources that you have to have? what's the research, right? And then start thinking about what the money, all the steps are in there. I just don't want you getting so caught up on like, how am I going to achieve this yet? But have a goal, set a goal for yourself, and make sure that it's a big enough reason that gets you out of bed excited as heck to go get this done. You know what I mean? When I get out of bed when I'm tired, I'm like, oh, I wonder what I'm going to get into today. I wonder how much I can achieve today. You know, I'm not saying every day, 24/7, 365, Diana's this kumbaya, let's go get it, make things happen. There's times of different emotions that I go through, but it's consistency. It doesn't mean you have to do it 365 days a year, but it's your average. I always tell my team, you know, when I talk about like our core values, client-centric, and, you know, being on point with what you're doing, being a team, and then you rate yourself. In your brain, you're rating yourself like, okay, so maybe today I didn't put my best foot forward. Today I wasn't a 10 out of 1 through 10, but I was a 7 because I wasn't really myself. The next day I'm an 8.9. The next day I'm a 6. The next day, well, that's bad. If anybody under a 7.5, we're in trouble. Red zone, get to that left brain. What can we change? What else is possible? What can we, right? Don't forget the reality sometimes. You might think I'm delusional. Well, if you live more by thinking you're delusional, but just live on that potential side of what else could happen, visualize a way out of this, you're going to be happy being delusional at times, right? You're going to be happy if someone says you're delusional. That's fine. I'll see who's laughing later, right? All the way to the bank because you made it happen. So that's one thing that you should know is goal setting with a vision is having the purpose. What's the reason that you want this? And then what is this going to do for you? And once you have the goal in front of you, and I wouldn't necessarily do 5 goals. I would start with even just 1 or 2. Because I think it's fine to have 5 goals and you put dates on it and you work towards it. And then you bite-size it and say, okay, I'm going to break this down. And we're going to get into that more later in the next episode. I'm giving you little tidbits now. And that's going to be part 2 of goal setting with a vision because it's going to go over, okay, now you set your goal. You understand the visualization aspects that it requires. Now it's time to execute. So just make sure that you're not thinking too small and you're playing it safe, because here's why. You might say, who are you to tell me not to play it safe? I don't want to do this audacious goal. Here's why. Because in order for you, and this is again, research has shown and studies have shown, when somebody sits down and makes a goal for themselves, if it doesn't get you excited at the mere thought that you will achieve this and even seeing yourself in the future achieving it, right? If you don't get excited about the thought of achieving this, so much so that it just, then what's the likelihood that you're going to stick with it when the going gets tough at times, right? You don't have a magic wand that's just going to appear like that. Oh, I did the visualization thing. Well, yeah, but how important is this goal for you? You can have other goals and you can put goals in your lives, but I'm talking about a big goal that just excites the bejesus out of you, that lights your heart on fire. You're like, heck, I'm going to do this thing. And you might say, well, the thing that lights my heart on fire is going to take me 5 years. What if you can do it in 2? Is that possible? And maybe, right, like you can find another goal that you can do it in 6 months. I just want you to be mindful in this part of this episode, in the second part of this episode, that it's at least a 90-day goal, a 30-day goal, a 6-month goal, even if it's like the end of the year goal, because I want you to see and start small. Even though I'm telling you, think big, this is starting small by just setting yourself something for 30 days or for 60 days or 90 days, even 6 months. I do feel that this is going to be a great practice, because if you can achieve something, and to me, that's a short time, 30, 60, 90, even 6 months. To me, it's like right now. You're going to blink and it's going to be 6 months. But it's also not so big that you got to wait 5 years until this happens. And if you can make something happen in 30 or 6 months, imagine what you can do in a year. Imagine what you can do in 2 years. I sat with people. This is a true story. I sat with multiple groups of people when I did my training on a lot of things, but this is one piece of it. And I even did one-on-one coaching after class. And I said, I don't believe that you're here for the right reasons. And she looked at me completely insulted, probably. And I didn't know her very well at that time. And I said, Dawn, I don't feel that you're excited about this goal that you set for yourself. And to be honest with you, my class that I'm teaching is for people that want to make things happen and that are serious about it. I don't think you're serious. She was like, when I get my money back, right? And I'm like, I don't think you are. And so anyways, everybody left and I chose to sit there because I knew there was more to the story. She said to me, well, I just think that, anything bigger than this is just, I've never been able to do. And I said, so is this goal something you've done before? And she goes, well, I just feel like it's my best bet. It's safe. I'm the breadwinner in my house. My son's in soccer or baseball, and we're traveling to Florida. And I just know that this is what I need. And I said, what do you want? This woman was a dear friend of mine after that, and she passed away at a very young age at 52. So I get emotional, but I know and that I have impacted her life on some way because I was led by God, and all the things that light my heart on fire is to not settle, to not feel like I need this. I taught my kids, all 4 of them, there's a difference between needs and there's a difference between wants. And it's okay to want things, but understand that, so that's a different thing. What I do as a parent, when I come as a coach, and even just now with you guys, in all candidness, to live life the way that I grew up with my parents, my 4 brothers and sisters, and having a family of 6 living in a 1-bedroom apartment, 2-bedroom apartments in San Diego, having my brothers never have a bedroom to themselves, sleeping in the living room. I know there's worse stories than mine in this incredibly crazy world we live in. And I feel so privileged that I had the life that I did because it taught me so much. And the only point I want to make is that my parents lived on pure survival mode. And I learned pure survival mode mentality in my young childhood. It just brought me back because she felt such pressure that she had to make a certain amount of money to just survive life because her husband didn't make enough and it was just really her income with her kids. And anyways, I sat her down and I called her out. I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to tell you what you need to hear. And I mean that with an absolute humble heart, is that I'm here to tell you what you need to hear because I know I've been through it. I have coached people through it. I have done this for 15 years and I know that it makes an impact. It really makes an impact on the things and the tools and the strategies that I've empowered myself in my life by the teachings of enthralled myself in books and the reality of like really this, how your brain works, the things that you believe, and that you are shooting aiming so small because of your fear. And if you're shooting for something small out of, it's driven off of fear, that's what I'm talking about, is how do we break that? That's not okay because you get to live this life one freaking time. You're not a cat like I told my dad. And for those of you that feel that you evolve and live another life in the next, you might be right. But I'm talking about in this lifetime with the people that you know by name. You get to live this life one time. Make it your fullest if you're 42, if you're 22, and if you're 69. Life does not have to be mediocre. It does not have to be full of pain. You could change that. I learned at such a young age that life, in my mind at that time, that life had to be so hard because I was living in survival mode with my parents. And so when I sat there with this woman in my class and she said, this is my safe bed and this is where, I said, you're not thinking big. And it's not me that wants you to think big. It's if you want something, if you want to achieve something more than what you're aiming for, that's who I'm talking to. I grew up Catholic. And in the Catholic religion, from where I came from, it's money is the root of all evil. My mom has ingrained that in a lot of our brains at a very young age, that money is the root of all evil. And I realized, no, money actually buys you options. It buys you experiences. It allows you to empower people. It allows me to give my children something better than what I had. It's not about the material things and the Louis Vuitton bags that I might have and the nice cars. You don't take that to heaven when you leave, right? It's what it allows me to do with the family members that mean everything to me and, empowering other people. I think it's about contribution. And I will not apologize for wearing my blessings well and the things that I put my sweat and tears on. And so that was my message to Dawn. I said, you're not thinking big enough. I know you want more. Why did you come here? I mean, we had a whole breakthrough moment in my session of 15, 20 agents at the time. And I said, why are you here? If you're looking, this isn't a class for people that want to play it safe, right? And that's okay. Love it or hate it. I'm okay with that because I know who I am and I know where I'm coming from and I know where you want to go and where the potential lies in you already. You just have to open that sucker up. And that's what I did with her. I broke down that shell and I said, you know what? I need you to sit here. If you're committed to this class, if you're committed to the end game, to the thing that I said I was going to deliver here in this class to you, I need you to do a goal that actually excites the heck out of you. Not that you're just surviving life. It's okay to think bigger. It's okay if you didn't have it before. It's okay if your siblings or your parents or somebody out there is telling you that it's not possible. You're the one buying that. You're either going to buy it or you're going to reject it. So there's nobody else to look at but look at yourself in the mirror and say, what do I want? What do you want? If you had that magic wand, what would that look like for you? Because I'm telling you right now, when you go after something crazy, something audacious, which I've done before, that I thought in my mind I was never going to be able to do this thing, and I did it anyways. I went for this goal. I'm going to do this thing that the brain says that I could do, right? And I got it, and I was like, how did that happen? And I said to myself, holy cow, this is no coincidence. This shit's real. This is real. Hold on a second. So I started to play with it more. And I'm going to give you an example. So soon after I got married really young with 2 kids, I became a single mom, and I was enthralled myself in real estate. And I remember driving in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I said, I saw a car. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I said I would live in this area of Scottsdale. I said, I'm going to live around this area one day. And everything that I was visualizing myself, like driving my kids to school in this neighborhood, I was like, oh, wow, can you imagine if I could live in Scottsdale, Arizona? Me growing up in a town, yeah, San Diego seems so wonderful, but my life wasn't in this elaborate beach home either, right? Like, I came from nothing. I had to help my parents pay for their electricity bill at 15, 16 years old when I started to work. And I was so proud of all this money that I had made at the time, and I had to give literally every dollar to my parents to pay for our electric bill. And I'm not saying this because, oh, poor me. It's just that I truly felt the hard knocks of life. And so for me, it was like, hey, I need to go get this. No one's going to hand anything to you. If someone's handing something to you for free, they're not doing you a service. You need to feel the pain and the hunger, right? And just feel that thirst to go for it. And when I did this goal and I started to see that, oh my gosh, it is possible. I remember seeing somebody drive, and I'm not looking to just make it about material things, but it's a true story. I saw somebody driving a BMW X5, and I was driving my Jeep Cherokee, not a bad car. Actually, even a Honda Accord I really loved. But I remember seeing that BMW X5 at a stoplight, and I'm like, he's driving my car. He is driving my car. I didn't know back then the power of visualization and the goal settings that I was about to do and all these things. And I started to remember, and I'm sure you can too, visualization has been happening since before you were born. It's already in you. You're already doing it. You're visualizing the negative crap that's showed up in your life. You're visualizing the positive things that you've accomplished in your life. There is no accident. You cannot experience success or even fear unless you've somehow in your subconscious mind accepted it to be so, accepted that reality is possible for me. Whether it's a bat going in my room, you might say, gosh, that's hard to swallow. You mean I attracted this accident that I had? It is hard for you to swallow. It's hard for most people to swallow. And I'm not saying that you're attracted, really hard things in your life. Like, only God knows the answers to that. All I'm saying is that you're not helping the situation. You're not helping a situation, even if it didn't, okay, I didn't create this fire, but you're adding fuel to the flame. And so when I did this visualization, I started to look back at and all of a sudden you start learning things about the brain, and I started to learn, and then all of a sudden light bulbs were going off, boom, 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 and I'm like, I have the X5. I remember saying it, and I remember seeing myself. Guys, I remember thinking to myself, the smell of the leather around my hands from the steering wheel. I remember back then we had CDs. Okay, I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but the CDs, right? I'm sure even if you're 20 years old, you know that we used to have CDs and we put them in the car. I think some cars still have them. And I remember playing this, like I was into some crazy song at the time. I don't remember what it was, but I remember listening to that song in my brain. Images of me driving my X5 with this CD. I know this is sound really creepy, but driving off the BMW lot in Phoenix, Arizona. And no lie, 8 months later, that happened. I was driving off the lot with the CD, my sunroof open, almost in tears that, oh my gosh, I remember doing this. So let me tell you something about your brain. The left side of your brain that I told you about, that's the brain that is imagining what's possible. That's the brain I was tapping into. Not realizing all that I know now about the brain. Holy cow, you might think, did you do that on purpose? By default, we're imagining things in our lives. And I'm sure you can remember, as I've been talking throughout this episode, that you've done it too. When you're tapping into that left side of your brain, as I mentioned, that's the room of possibilities for you. And your subconscious mind, by the way, believes that they're living twice the life that you are living. And here's why. So me imagining myself driving this BMW is going to my subconscious mind. Because my conscious reality, right, on the forefront, that's the right side of your brain. That's reality. Diana, you drive a Honda. You don't drive a BMW. There's nothing wrong with Hondas, by the way. Love Hondas. That's what my right brain knows, the reality. Oh, you only have $57 in your bank account. You don't have $25,000 yet. But that's my conscious awareness. And so when you visualize, you guys, when you're visualizing the goal that you just set for yourself and you're seeing yourself on the beach of freaking Bahamas or Costa Rica, wherever it is that you're going to now be able to do because you achieved this goal, or open up an office, or that promotion to a director level position or a manager position, when you start to visualize in absolute detail, and it's going to change how you feel, and all that you're utilizing all the five senses. Sometimes it's only two. Visualization, what you could see. Auditorial, kinesthetic is how you feel. Even like your smell and your senses. When I do guided meditation to even people I've spoken to on stage, and I've had them come up for exercise, I say, you're at the beach, just sipping on that pina colada you said you liked. You're going there in the mind. You're already there experiencing the thing that you're visualizing. So your subconscious already feels that it's already been there. And if your subconscious feels and sees that you've already been there, it has no choice. Neuroscience, you guys, science is back. Research has backed this up. It has no choice but to bring you the reality that your left brain was imagining. Wow, imagine that. It's truly that simple. And if you're still with me and you followed this entire episode till this point, thank you so much for investing in yourself, really, and not just in me, in other episodes and the things that are really empowering you. There's so much out there, you guys. There's so much out there to really learn about the power that your brain has, that God has given each and every single one of you to create the life of possibilities. Don't play it small because of fear. You deserve to live life with its full potential. The things only you can determine what that looks like. Healthier. You want to be able to not have pain in your knees, whatever it is, whether it's a health thing, if it's a business thing, you have a goal to travel the world, to climb Mount Everest, whatever it is, you can do that. You can have that. You don't have to wait 10 years or 5 years to have your dream home. And we're going to get into your execution strategy on episode 2 of goal setting with a vision. Thank you so much for tuning in. Wherever you're tuning in from, would love to hear from you. If you're tuning in on YouTube, love to hear your comments, maybe some of the things that you've applied in your lives with a goal, and maybe some visualization, and also some visualization. We'll love to hear your comments, or maybe what are you going to do right now, not tomorrow, this second. I don't care if you're driving, if you're at home, what are you going to start implementing? What are you going to start doing today or tomorrow or this week that you can share? We'd love to hear from you, and maybe something that has empowered you in the past. And looking forward to part 2 of Goal Setting with a Vision. I'm Diana Pagano, and remember to follow me for more on social media at I am Diana Pagano.